Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland preview show. Sunderland have started their championship campaign in really quite frustrating fashion after back-to-back defeats. Sees us just outside of the relegation spots, but it's 2 games in. And a win this coming Saturday over Rotherham United at the Stadium Light will do the team and myself and Tony Mowbray and you the world of good. But can we do it? To let us know what we can expect from Rotherham this coming Saturday is the returning guest, but not for a while, Matt from New York Talk. Matt, I feel like it's not been that long, but it has. Are you all right?
I'm very good, yeah. It's been like a couple of years now, hasn't it? The last time we spoke was before the 5-1. So if we win on Saturday, you might have regretted having me on again, to be honest with
you. Thanks for joining, everyone. That's the end of this week's show. The next line here on the script, shall we call it? So we've started with 2 defeats, but you haven't started much better, which is the good news. A draw and a heavy defeat, but we'll go back at Saturday's game first. You're 2-0 up, you went down to 10 men. I hear that's controversial. And then you concede 2 late goals to Sammy Schmodix, which is a great name to say, but I'll not say it too much because obviously it's a pain in the bum for Rotherham fans. But how was the performance? And talk to me about that red card, because I've read it. That's not a pun. I've read it's controversial.
Yeah, so the first 50 minutes pre-red card was a really good performance. The Stoke game was abysmal, and it was really important that we just stepped up. I can accept a 2-2 draw. I just wanted to see that there was something about this team, and there absolutely was. Blackburn tried to pass it around at the back a little bit, and we just pressed them pretty high. We wasn't a crazy press, but we just pressed them pretty high, and they just completely ran out of ideas within about 5 minutes, to be honest. We didn't have much of possession, but when we had the possession, we were pretty good with 11 men. And had it stayed 11 men, we'd have gone on to win that game. If it didn't stay 2-0, it would have gone 3-4. We were so much better than Blackburn. It wasn't even a contest. They just weren't in it at all. Then comes the Bobby Madley show, as we now refer to it. So anybody that hasn't seen it, Fred Onyedinma scored the second goal, which was fantastic diving header, just one of the best type of goals to watch. It was great. He went and celebrated towards the fans, and the momentum of his fellow players pushed him into the crowd, which, as we know, is unfortunately a yellow card. Less than 90 seconds later, he got hacked down. The Blackburn player should have been booked, wasn't booked. Fred gave it one of those imaginary yellow cards, and Bobby Madley has decided that under the new implementation of regulations, that's the yellow card. There was no conversation. There was, right, here's the yellow card and off you go. And you sort of went, yeah, I get it. It's technically by the rules. I don't like it. I don't like either rule, to be honest with you, but I can accept it. I'm going to sound like I'm really whinging and moaning here, so sorry. Sorry, everybody. But we can move past that. Then there comes an incident. There was an incident in the first half. One of our players got booked for kicking the ball away. Now, again, under these new things, kicking the ball away is like the worst thing you can do. It's booking. Fair enough. Sammy Schmodix kicked the ball away in the second half, having already been on the yellow card, and didn't get the second yellow. Went on to score both goals to make it 2-2. Really frustrating. Like I said, up until the red card, we were brilliant. And to be fair, and I think the players deserve a lot of credit. Up until the first goal, I thought we were brilliant. We really kept them at arm's length. Yeah, they had a lot of ball because they got an extra man. But we really pushed them and didn't allow them to have much time and space in the key areas. But it just hurts. So, it's just one of those. We've all been there as football fans where referee has made a mistake or one thing or the other and just ruins your weekend. It was tough. If we played rubbish, then it might not hurt as much, to be honest with you. But we were so good, so much better than them pre-red card. It's took a lot out of me, to be honest, this weekend.
I've got a question for you, because you can actually answer this. I know my answer, and you probably know my answer by the fact I'm asking it. But League One referees bad, Championship referees worse?
Oh, it's crazy how much worse they are. I don't really... Well, I do understand. So I've got a theory on it. That Championship referees are full-time, aren't they? Yeah. Championship referees are full-time, but they're not good enough for the Premier League. So that means they get stuck in the Championship, whereas League One and League Two are still part-time, from my understanding. So we get the Keith Strouds of the world and the Gavin Wards and all these people that aren't good enough for the Premier League, and they get stuck at the second. That's my theory, anyway.
I'll take the theory, but I'm pleased you agree, and it's not just me. The next question, I feel like, based on what you've just said, obviously doesn't really make sense, but for people who don't know, it's the second red card you've had in successive games. You've been down to 10 in in 2 games. Obviously, that second one, I can understand it, but yeah, I kind of get why it ruined your weekend. But is there a worry that there's a discipline issue already? Was the red card against Stoke also not a red card?
Yeah, we got an apology from the PGMOL about the second. Cafu got booked two yellows, and the second one he got the ball. He got the ball, maybe touched the man. It might have been a foul if you're that way inclined. It was never in a million years a yellow card. Had an apology. It looked bad on paper. You know, if you look across League One, Championship and League One, nobody else has got a red card. I don't think we've got two, top of one table at least. So it shouldn't be. But then you never know if the Matt Taylor or the club or the players get something about them, it may become an issue because they think the world's against them. It shouldn't be an issue. I hope. If it's the third one this weekend, I will start to worry though.
It's funny you mentioned Stoke being a red card down there and a lad winning the ball. I can't remember who the referee was, but Wes Brown got sent off for probably the best tackle I've ever seen in my life. And it obviously got rescinded. And I've never seen Gus Poyet's mouth bigger, and it's a big mouth. But he was flabbergasted, and I think I still am, to be honest. It was on Charlie Adam, who went down like he'd been shot, even though he got the ball taken. I'm not bitter. It's only 10 years ago it happened. Ultimately, it was a 4-1 defeat against Stoke, right? And I know that's never how you want to start a season. Was it a 4-1 game, or was it another one with a red card kind of killed it?
No, it was probably a 4-1 game. The red card happened, I think, at 3-1. I think we'd got one back. We were 1-0 down inside half an hour, and Stoke were brilliant. They did not let us breathe for a second, and they were just completely on us from the word go. Which was strange. We had a really positive pre-season. The transfer business is not. No, we haven't signed 10 players, but it's been an improvement. Man for man that's coming, other than losing Ogbene to Luton, it's been a bit there or thereabouts a really good summer. And then we come into the positivity, and the positivity gets sucked out of the club inside 15 minutes, which was tough. But it may have been a good wake-up call. But yeah, it was awful. There's no playing around it. We were really, really bad. We got done for pace. We couldn't look after the ball. We couldn't get out of our own half. We scored straight after half time after making a sub or two, but I think that's because Stoke took the foot off the gas. The game was done. They knew what they were doing. And any momentum was then killed by the second yellow card for Cafu, and then they scored a fourth goal. It was a concern because we just couldn't defend set pieces and crosses. 3 out of the 4 goals came from crosses, and I think on day one that's one of the things you should have been working on. So it was a worry, but that hasn't in the cup against Morecambe and against Blackburn. That was clearly a one-off in terms of that side of things. We look really strong out wide. I think it was a bit of a wake-up call, certainly for fans. We all came in sort of thinking, we'll be fine this season. We could slip into a boring 14th place finish. So it might have been quite a good wake-up call to think this is not going to be as easy, as simple as we all think it is. Could have done without another game ruining my weekend, to be honest with you. But now we look back, I think that's probably why Blackburn game performance was so good, because that was so bad and that was needed. But it shows we have got it in our locker to be beaten quite badly, which I don't like.
I'm going to say, though, the Blackburn game, it sounds like, I know it's obviously not ended in the right way, but it seemed to have allayed any worries that you're not going to get battered this season. Because I think, I know you finished 19th last year, look, and I know 19th isn't always like the best position on the planet, but 5 points clear of relegation, yet had almost got the tag of like the Championship Norwich. It was a bit yo-yo-y. And you were relatively comfortable. You were never really down there from my memory. How successful was it that you stayed up and you were so far clear of relegation? Because I know 19th was only 3 places, I think, but 5 points is a decent gap.
Yeah, it is absolutely. The yo-yo was talked about a lot, especially as the season got on. It was even more talked about. To finally break it was just such a relief from the club. It was just, you've gone 3 successive championship seasons, and certainly the last one we conceded an 87th minute goal to get relegated. To sort of kill those demons was absolutely huge. I don't think we were in the relegation zone for a single day last season, and I think that for a team that were probably favourites to go down, I think that's a massive credit to Paul Warne to start with. But Matt Taylor deserves so much credit for taking over a team that isn't his, that's so ingrained in another man's ideas, that he came in and was able to adapt that gradually. With quite big bumps in the road, but he was able to adapt it, and like I said, stayed up with basic ease. And there was lost to Cardiff late to mid-April, and there was a little bit of worry, but we were never probably we were never less than 2 points close adrift to the relegation zone. So realistically, it was relatively safe. But as we all know as football fans, we never felt safe. We didn't feel safe until the final whistle at the Middlesbrough game. And for us we had the final day of the season. For the first time in about 8 years, the final game was meaningless. And we took 4,500 fans to Wigan, and it was a terrible game. But it was great because we could all just relax and have a good sing-song and farewell the players that were leaving. It was a huge season based on the previous 3 championships. It was such a success. And we've got to try and build on it. That's the challenge for Matt Taylor, I suppose, to try and build on it if you can.
Difficult second album. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
One player that probably is not really registered on the Richter scale for Rotherham, but he definitely does for us, especially over the past few years. And I know he had, I think, 7 games after getting injured for years. He's obviously left Sunderland now, but you had Bailey Wright on loan second half of last season. And I think, look, Bailey's someone we all massively respect, an absolute warrior of a man. And whilst he wasn't the most technically gifted centre-half we've ever had, and he played for us in our worst period at League One, everyone loved him, and he played a huge part in where Sunderland are at the moment. But how did Rotherham fans take to him? I know he was only there 7 games, but did you love him almost as much as we did?
I don't know as much as you guys. I don't think he had a chance to him, but he certainly was popular. His debut is very famous. I think he lasted about 6 seconds before getting knocked out. Which felt so bad for him. I mean, they missed two more games for a concussion, from concussion protocol. But yeah, he's that old-fashioned centre half. I just felt he'll put his head where it hurts. He's not particularly fast, like he's not particularly skillful. But I would want him. If I was building a team, I would want a player like him in my defence. Sometimes we wait around after the game to speak to a few people that work at the club. And every time Bailey Wright comes back, he would just have a minute and just talk to you. And he was just such a nice guy. He's got such a lovely Australian accent as well.
He does.
So, he just all-time world for him. And there's a Singapore into, which is an odd move, but I'm sure it's a lovely place to live. But hopefully has a successful career. Not a bad word to say against him.
I think he got sent off on his debut in Singapore, but then I think he scored a brace a couple of games later. So, yeah, you know what? When World War III happens, which is seemingly inevitable, I would like Bailey in the trenches, shall we say.
Correct.
Big fan. In terms of players that you have brought in, obviously 6 players, I think it is in total. You've got Dylan Phillips. Sunderland fans will remember him as the goalkeeper for Charlton, who let that goal in the playoff final. Grant Holt came in from Borough. Andre Green, former Aston Villa academy product. I think he came from abroad somewhere in Europe somewhere. And then you brought in a couple of loan players. But on the flip side, you've obviously lost Ogbene has gone to Luton, which is a big loss, and Wes Harden's gone to Millwall as well. So how do you rate the transfer window for them? He seemed relatively happy with it. 6 players is a good amount to bring in as well.
Yeah, it is. I think with Chilo Ogbene is the big loss. We bought him from Brentford for nothing, and as football fans, you see this guy come in as a kid and he's gone away a man. And I know I've got a fee for him, but it's quite a coup for the club that we've managed to take this guy and make him into a Premier League player. Obviously, with his own hard work as well, he deserves some credit. But to see him go and make his debut in the Premier League at the weekend is really, it's great. And Chio's a great guy, and if anybody ever speaks to him, you'll know he's such a nice guy. He's so great. But he's impossible to replace. There isn't just another for us. We can't go spend £5 million and just get another Chio Ogbene off the shelf. We bought Onye Dimna, who is a similar player, wide player, a bit of pace, probably a bit more physical than Chio. Obviously, he's suspended, so you won't see him this weekend. But he is a similar kind of player. But he's the only one that's sort of noteworthy. We lost Dan Barlow in January. We managed quite well without him. But so to say that we've lost a few players, but only one's significant, I think that's good from that side. That's good. And then we've brought in the few players. Cafu from Forest is maybe not the marquee signing, but the name that sort of jumps out at us is an all-action midfielder.
Not the Brazilian one, for the record.
Sadly, not the Brazilian one.
Hang on a minute. I think he's quite old now, and he's a midfielder, not a right back, but he is called Cafu.
He is, yeah. Portuguese, this one. Not Brazilian, sadly. But yeah, he's a bit of a mad Portuguese guy. He's got a wicked free kick on him, but he got sent off. He got booked. He's had 2 games, 3 yellow cards. So that's the kind of player that you are dealing with. 2 of them were justified. But he's a good fun all action. We have another signing which should be announced before the weekend, work permit permitting. When we're waiting 3 or 4 weeks for this work permit. But by all accounts, Christ Tiahi. I think that's how you say it. It's probably not. He was at Wigan last season on loan.
Please, you attempted it, not me.
But he's come from Slovan Liberec, I think is coming from. Central midfielder, ball playing from what I understand. I don't know too much about him, but a bit of a ball player. So if he's fit, if he's signed, which he should do by Saturday, that'll be good for us with the bodies in midfield. And there's supposedly another loan coming in. The transfer is, it's been actually, the players we're signing are better than we've ever signed. We would never sign Cafu in the past. Onyedin is a proper championship player. Grant Hall's injury prone, but again, a very, very good championship player. And if Andre Green ever hits his potential, you've got a great player in Andre Green. So we are shopping in a different market, to maybe use Matt Taylor's phrase, I think is almost an exact quote from him. And it breeds excitement for the club, from the fans and everything else. 4-1 loss to Stoke brings that excitement level down, obviously. But we've got 2 loans. I think we will use the full quota of 5. So I think there's still 3 loans coming plus Tiahi, who coming on a permanent. So we're looking okay. And with the performance on Saturday as well, I think we are only a couple, 2 to 3 signs away from being. I said that now. I think we look like a championship team. I think man for man we look like a championship team. We just lack a bit of depth. That's all it is.
I think you were the first last season. You were the first side to beat us. I think we were unbeaten from October to like March, and you were the first team to beat us. So the pedigree's definitely there. Not that I'm overrating us, but we were in good form. And I think touched on Onyedin before, for any Sunderland fans who recognise the name. He was the player that when he was at Luton last year, I don't know whether you know this, but there was a young autistic boy, non-verbal, autistic, and went to the game and stuff. And I can't quite remember what it was, but I think he'd met him and he took his photo with him and he sent him down and signed Luton shirt and stuff like that. And he really looked after the kids. So in some ways, I'm hoping he's not suspended this Saturday. Has he had his red card? Second yellow. Oh, well, that's crap. For him, I'm all right for us. Or, like,
for you, it's great.
Yeah, for us, it's good. But look, I mean, you talk about the way the team is and stuff like that. I think the second season syndrome is hard. We're going to have it as well. And also, and if you don't mind me saying it, probably historically slightly more successful in Rotherham.
Oh, yeah.
But we're still in the same sort of boat in terms of where we were, although we had that great season last season. But if you were to finish, well, I don't know, you said 14th before. What do Rotherham fans want? What's like the height of the ambition? What's sort of the expectation? Same again, and then just keep gradually pushing 1 or 2 places up here or there?
I think so, yeah. I think if you offered all Rotherham fans just survival, a point above safety, with everything that's going, with budgets and everything else, I think you've got to take that. You know from last season, the Championship last season was not a good league. The Championship this season is potentially going to be one of the best in terms of quality. So we've got that to contend with, being one of the smallest fish in the league as well. But I think safety is not minimum, but I think that will be great again. It'll be another good achievement. And I think for the club as well, you look at next year's Sky deal coming in, that if we can stay up and get a bit more, bit more cheddar from Sky in terms of that new deal, again, that might be able to push us on to a next level. Matt Taylor has come in and really spoken about trying to progress the club. We had him on our podcast, and we had one of the questions we asked was, how do you feel about the teams like Rotherham tag? And he sort of talked about that we want to move away from, it's always Rotherham, or almost a victim club we do sometimes because we're little old Rotherham. He talks about trying to move away from that a little bit, and I think that's really important. If you improve the training ground, he talks really, really well. I really like Matt Taylor, the way he speaks and how direct he is and honest, direct and honest. There's no sugarcoating like Paul Warne did at times. I think we can move forward. I think he is the right man to move us forward. But it's also a massive season for him. If he succeeds this season with us, his career trajectory could be anywhere. If he could go into another big championship club and potentially be a Premier League manager, if he gets us relegated, then again for him it's a big season for him as well as the club. But we could be a really boring team this year. 14th place, I don't think is out of the question, or something really boring like that. I think we would obviously celebrate that. But I am fully aware that it's probably going to be a dogfight again. And I think most Rotherham fans are prepared for that. We can dream of just having a boring season. One day we'll have a really boring season. It's going to be great. I just don't know when it's going to be.
Well, we thought last season was going to be boring for us, and then we went and did the playoffs by accident. And we were like, what we're doing here? And then it was like, oh, hang on, we're here, so we might as well just try. But yeah, boring seasons tend not to exist with Sunderland, and I get the feeling Rotherham might be the same, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for you, I don't know. Looking at your lineup, it does. Yeah, I mean, it's great for us. Great for us. Like I think there was one game where I don't think I've actually done a game where it meant nothing all the way through. I can't imagine doing a preview for. Oh no, I think I tell a lie. I did a preview show when we played Northampton behind closed doors. It meant nothing. I honestly couldn't be bothered. I feel like that now, but that was when I was fresh and young. Do you know what I mean? And I enjoyed doing this. So, I think looking at your current lineup, obviously, there's a few names that pop out. Cameron Humphreys at the back, former academy Manchester City academy player who, interestingly, if you look at the photos of him as a Manchester City academy player, very much a young boy in the City academy mold. He's gone to Rotherham. He's grew his hair, grew a bit of a beard, and it's like, ma'am, it's not a phase. But he's actually grown as a player as well. And I think most people, the big name that'll stick out is Jordan Hugel, who has scored goals for numerous clubs in the Championship for the past few years. But who are the players that we maybe don't know of that have started the season quite well, or someone that we might not be aware of that could cause us some damage on Saturday?
So Ollie Rathbone's one you probably know because he scored at New York Stadium, but Ollie Rathbone is a real driving force, and I think he's underrated by the rest of the world, to be honest with you. He's got so much in the locker. He's pretty quick for a midfielder. Not very tall, but he will never ever shirk a fight. He will be the first man in there. He's set vice captain, so that tells you obviously how highly he's thought of by Matt Taylor and the team behind him. If we play well, if Ollie Rathbone plays well, we tend to play well. I don't think I've ever seen him have a bad game and him have a good game and us have a bad game. He's just one of those type of players that you watch him and you just want to follow him. You just want to run after him. You'll never catch him, obviously, but you just want to run after him. He's always one to watch. I think that the thing with the Blackburn game, there's nobody else that stood out, and that's not saying nobody else played badly. It was just a great team performance. Dexter Limbakiso is a fullback, right back he's on loan from Wolves, 19-year-old kid. Where he's got pace to burn. Again, not frightened. He'll get stuck in. But he's very, very raw. He's now on to his second senior game ever. So he's very, very raw. Lee Peltier would probably have played, but he's out for about 3 months with a calf strain. But yeah, as you mentioned, Cam Humphreys, John Hugel are key. John Hugel's a chap, again, talk about being champion. He's a proper championship player. These are not the players that, and whether this was Paul Warne or whether the owner while Paul was there, he would have never come to us under Paul Warne. But he scored 5 goals and he leads from the front. Is a great presser and very, very experienced. Cam Humphreys is such a good player. He is such a good player. It's the Man City connection is obvious. You can see it within 5 minutes. He's a Rolls Royce of a player. I think this is the season that the rest of the Championship steps up and maybe sees how good he is, because he's got just about everything he needs. He can win headers. He's quick. He's got the skills. He's one of them players that you can, John Stones steps into midfield. Cam Humphreys is probably going to do that at some stage in his career. He doesn't really make mistakes, and I'm touching all the wood I can find at the minute, but he's never really made a mistake.
Until Saturday.
Yeah, own goal. Yeah, it's difficult to pick any, but yeah, Cam Humphreys is one of my favourites at the minute. I absolutely love that man.
To be fair, you mentioned Rathbone there before. He had a really good game when we got beat 2-1 in March, I think it was. I think he got the first, and I do remember him really sticking out. He was great that night, and probably the reason you won. But I think, we came up from League One together, as we've sort of touched on. And admittedly, I think Sunderland fans will remember when you came up against us. Obviously, you beat us 5-1. We got lucky in the 1-1 draw at the time, but it all worked out. We won the playoffs and it was all good. But I think at the time, Rotherham just looked physically better, stronger, more equipped to win that league and win that division. But then last season, look, you had a good season, we finished 19th, but we did finish 6th by accident, I think. Yeah. But as a Championship club that knows Sunderland better than most, did the way that Sunderland ended last season surprise you? Or was it kind of not expected, but, was it a surprise to you?
Not really, no. To be honest with you, I always expected. I knew from day one that Sunderland were never going to be in trouble. There was Sunderland were never ever going to be in a relegation fight. That was very clear and obvious. Maybe I didn't expect the playoffs, but the times you brought in Jack Clark on a permanent and Ross Stewart when he was fit, Sims when he was here was a great signing. I was just Diallo as we talked about earlier. Diallo was an immense signing. If you're able to bring those kinds of players in, you're always going to be talking with the right people in terms of the league. It's going to be a similar story this season, probably with Ipswich, where they've recruited very, very well. They've got a great young manager, and I think we're going to see that. So I think when teams like Sunderland and Ipswich finally get out of that damn league, I think the bottles that you take the top off. Norwich did it. Norwich go back to back a few years ago, so it's not unheard of to do it. And yeah, I won't say I'm happy to see it. Actually, I'm a neutral. I don't mind either way. But it's a good story for a team to come out of League One and just go again, just to progress again instantly. And we were talking about Tony Mowbray. I really like Tony Mowbray. I think it's a really good. I think it was a really solid appointment at the time, and as it's shown out to be, I think he feels like the right man at the right time for you. To be honest,
yeah, absolutely. I can't disagree with it. I think one or two decisions here or there with substitutes here and there, maybe, but I'm really picking bones there. Like, I love him. I think he's great. I don't have any granddads, so he is my granddad. I did have them; they're just dead. But why did I go so grim? From the outside looking in, look, we've started the first 2 games of the season with really narrow, unlucky defeats where we've probably been the slightly more dominant side, and we've touched on your podcast about Sunderland's lack of strikers. Fans won't want me to be going over that again, and hopefully we'll have one in come Saturday. But do you think Sunderland can repeat last season's success? I'm not saying do you think it's a flash in the pan, but obviously the league is more difficult. Do you think Sunderland could repeat it again, or do you think it's going to be maybe a little bit less?
I think they'll be. They'll be in the same pot. I think you've probably got the 2 teams, Leicester and Southampton, who will probably walk away with the league, and then I think you've got a pot of 8 other teams that are probably going to be vying for the playoff spots. And I can't see why Sunderland, like I said, the striking issue is glaring. To be honest with you, when you played at our place last season, that was an issue. That was a clear issue at the time of Gelhardt as striker, and it obviously didn't work. Ross Stewart being injured is obviously a killer. Any team in this league, and some teams in the Premier League would probably miss a Ross Stewart type player. So it's a really obvious thing to say. But yeah, recruitment's been solid. I think it's been fine. But you look at it and think, yeah, he's probably good. Bellingham's one good one for the future. Like you mentioned, the young striker you signed, that's good, maybe good for the future. You need somebody for now, and I expect Tony Mowbray to be pushing for that. Tony Mowbray seems like the kind of guy who needs experienced heads, likes experienced heads. I'm surprised he hasn't sort of got his way yet in that. But there's no reason why Sunderland won't be in, actually, certainly in the conversation, I think.
Hope so. Don't want to do that relegation thing again. It's awful. Had enough of that. I've touched on a lot, and I've put on the review shows and the preview shows about the lack of strikers and stuff. But on a realistic note, I know we have good players and players that can cause damage to teams like Rotherham on Saturday.
There we go.
I had to get it in. In regards to the players that, because I remember obviously the 3-0 up here, I remember Jack Clark was outstanding. Ross Stewart scored 2 that night. Is there any particular players that you think could cause Rotherham damage where particularly maybe you're weak and you think we're particularly strong from what you've seen of us? Which players do you fear, quote unquote?
I think Jack Clark's the obvious, and I think, again, it's really boring, but you probably get this from both good. When Jack Clark's on it, Jack Clark's just on it. He's just a great player to watch. He's at times unstoppable. I think it was a 3rd goal I think he scored at your place last season. He just, he was obviously highly rated. I think it's difficult when he was highly rated at Leeds and it didn't quite work out. He went to Spurs and didn't quite work out. It feels like he's found a home, which often happens. And you've managed to, so far, in touch wood for you guys, you've managed to keep hold of him so far.
If Burnley are listening, he said he's found a home there, and that's not a Sunderland fan saying that. That is a Rotherham fan saying that. So,
if he could, stub his toe or something on Friday, twist his knee, so just something very minor, that'd be really helpful.
Just a one game
to us. Yeah, exactly. Just nothing. It's just gets a bad cough and has to just nip to A&E just to make sure it's nothing serious, or something like that. Nothing too serious.
Could he play if he had the
because
shits?
I really, really like him. And
could he play if he had the shits?
He probably could. He might nip off every 10 minutes, though.
Yeah, rolling subs. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Go with that. That's a mild one. You can have the shits for a week. Bad curry. God, I hope not, because we'll be knackered. This is how centre forward at the minute, I think. But I've already given my prediction on yours. I think we'll just sneak it 2-1. I do fancy it. I think, again, and with all due respect to Rotherham, I think it's a game you need to look at winning. Neither of us have had great starts, so you'll think exactly the same. I think it's far tougher than what we anticipate. But I think we need to get a win, and I think we will, but narrowly. So I've said 2-1, but I wouldn't be surprised with a 1-0. But Matt, I get the feeling you might feel a bit different.
Yeah, I think your poor start has emboldened my prediction, to be honest with you. I think if you can put pressure on Sunderland at home, it can be a tough place, a really tough place for players to play. So having been 2 losses, so if we can get an early goal and keep the pressure on, we won't be comfortable. I can't see it being 2 or 3-0. I certainly could never see that. Certainly from what we've seen from us so far. But I will go the opposite of you. I'll go 2-1 win. I suspect we'll go. Hopefully, maybe go 2-0 up and then 1 goal back, and then we'll probably have no nails left by about 5 o'clock or 5:30, whenever it finishes on Saturday night.
That would be the worst if you went 2-0 up. I've been in those atmospheres before, so I hope that isn't the case. Matt, I've obviously been on your podcast as well, so if people want to put themselves through suffering listening to me twice, where can they find you?
Yeah, so New York Talk, we're on YouTube, which will be, we have a preview and review, and same podcast for iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts. Search New York Talk and you'll find some 3 blokes from Rotherham chatting nonsense.
Sounds very similar to mine, just with the word Sunderland put in instead. But Matt, good catching up. I hope you have a horrible weekend, but a good weekend after that.
And same to you.
As expected and as anticipated. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.